Good evening, everyone. Welcome to St Nicholas Montessori College Virtual Graduation Ceremony 2020. My name is Anne King and I'm the Director of Quality and Academic Affairs for the college, and I'll be your MC for the evening. So before we begin, can I ask you just two things? One, to please turn your camera on so that you can fully engage in the ceremony with us this evening. And the second thing is that your microphones will be muted. So if you could please keep them that way for the duration of the ceremony, that would be terrific. I'll just give everyone a minute to make sure that they're muted. Aina Kemula, Aguina Ushla, Kolakaha agus Rave Kemaha, Folchero Vera and Grinucha, in a run for Dovachtani Olamori Kalashta St Nicholas Montessori Erin. Distinguished guests, ladies, gentlemen, colleagues and graduands, welcome to this meeting at which awards will be conferred on learners of St Nicholas Montessori College, Ireland. I would now like to introduce you to our distinguished guests and colleagues. Paula Glasgow, a member of the Board of Trustees of St Nicholas Montessori Society, Ireland. Good evening, Paula. Dr. Nicholas Breakwell, Chief Executive Officer of St Nicholas Montessori Society, Ireland. And Ray Gurn, founder of Higher Ground Education. I now call upon Paula Glasgow, a member of the Board of Trustees of St Nicholas Montessori Society, Ireland, to deliver a short welcoming address. Thank you, Paula.
Good evening, everybody. As a member of the St. Nicholas Board of Trustees, I want to congratulate each of you who are graduating this evening. I thank your families and friends who have supported you on this journey through the years of study and effort. Those of us who hold Montessori diplomas and other educational diplomas and awards, we know exactly what you have been through, and tonight is a great opportunity for celebrating. I'd like to share with you a little of the history of the St. Nicholas Montessori Society of Ireland. In 1970, the St. Nicholas Montessori Society of Ireland was founded by Mrs. Sheila Fitzgerald and a group of like-minded educators. Workshops and evening courses were offered initially at locations starting out in Mount Anville School. Then we moved to Carysford Training College. Summer courses were held at Ongrianon, which is the ICA house in Termonfeckin in County Louth. And the diplomas at that time were always issued by the St. Nicholas Montessori College in London. That was founded by Miss Humphrey and Miss Child, who were contemporaries of Dr. Maria Montessori. Mrs. Sheila Fitzgerald and the other educators approached Miss Humphrey and Miss Child to open training here in Dublin in Ireland. And in 1980, St. Nicholas House in Dunleary was purchased with support from London. It opened its doors to the St. Nicholas Montessori School and the St. Nicholas Montessori College. Mrs. Peggy McClatchy was the first principal of the school. And on the first day of the school, 2 little pupils turned up only. One of them was my niece, who was aged 2.5. And the first thing that attracted her in the environment was the first knobbed cylinder. She went straight to the shelf and picked that off and worked with her friend Barry throughout the day. Gradually, with Mrs. Fitzgerald as the school principal and college director, great interest came in the school and in the college, and numbers grew exponentially. Mrs. Fitzgerald went to an international position, and I succeeded her in the late 1980s as college principal. In 1994, Mrs. Bernadette Burns took over as college principal. And St. Nicholas College was granted designated status by Ireland's National Council for Educational Awards, the NCEA, the state body approved for higher education, and degree and higher education programs were added to the Montessori courses at that time. So it was a time of tremendous change and development. Since those years, the St Nicholas Montessori School and College and the Teachers Association has grown and thrived. And the college now offers many new certificate, degree, and higher diploma in arts programs, which you are representing here this evening under the guidance of Dr. Nicholas Breakwell. Now, the foundress of the St Nicholas Montessori Society of Ireland is living. She is 91 years of age, Mrs. Sheila Fitzgerald, and I told her that I would be attending this evening. And here's what she asked me to share with you. From the origin of this enterprise, friendship and cooperation among all those involved was the bedrock of the success that followed. It all rested on the leadership that existed in those early years, 50 years ago. She sends congratulations to all of you on achieving this excellent qualification. And on behalf of the board, I thank you most sincerely, particularly the St. Nicholas faculty who have worked so diligently with you throughout your years of study. I offer each of you my sincere congratulations, and I wish you a happy future working with children while the St. Nicholas Montessori Society Ireland continues its wonderful journey into the next 50 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. I now call upon Dr. Nicholas Breakwell, the Chief Executive Officer of St Nicholas Montessori Society Ireland, to confer awards of Quality and Qualifications Ireland on the learners of this college, presented by the college for that purpose.
On behalf of St Nicholas Montessori College Ireland and Quality and Qualifications Ireland, I hereby confer awards on the learners of St Nicholas Montessori College Ireland, who have achieved the standard determined by the QQI for those awards.
I call upon Siobhan O'Reilly to present the candidates from the Higher Certificate in Arts in Early Years Montessori Education and the Bachelor of Arts in Montessori Education.
I present to you the following candidate who has successfully completed the programme in the college and who is worthy of the QQI Award of Higher Certificate in Arts in Early Years Montessori Education, and I request you present her parchment to her. Megan Heaney Holmes. I present to you the following candidates who have successfully completed the programme in the college and who are worthy of the QQI Award of Bachelor of Arts in Montessori Education, and I request you present their QQI Award to them. Batul Al-Sabi. Lauren Angel. Christina Armstrong. Claudia Baltrinata. Adam Rory Black. Megan Blackburn. Magda Berglatt. Marie Brady. Aisling Joanna Brennan. Nisha Brennan. Carmen Cubano. Jacqueline Coote. Angelica Maria Cordero de Medeiros. Elaine Cunningham. Eva Genova. Emma Deasy. Michaela Doran. Sorka Dowd. Quiva Duff. Lorinda Durrigan. Lydia Garcia Ralden. Chloe Gilmore. Leticia Guerra Oliveira. Leah Hannon. Gail Hartigan. April Izagi. Dee Jeffers. Amelia Kavanagh. Jade Kelly. Shauna Kelly. Fiona Kennedy. Michael Anthony Kennedy. Jennifer Kerwin. Shan Lewis Wilmot. Shannon Longworth. Sergio Marquez Alonso. Katrina Martin. Emma MacDonald. Kelly McHugh. Chloe McCain. Emma O'Mahony. Quiva O'Toole. Roisin O'Toole. Anne Quilter. Nada Rainty. Marta Salvador Sanchez Marco. Aoife Shanahan. Linda Smullen. Deirdre Staunton. Kaylee Sullivan. Ruth Trainer. Emma Ward. Louise Watson. Roisin Wheatley.
Thank you, Siobhan. I now call upon Sive Brannock to present the candidates from the Bachelor of Arts Honours in Montessori Education.
I present to you the following candidates who have successfully completed the programme in the college and who are worthy of the QQI Award of Bachelor of Arts Honours in Montessori Education, and I request you present their QQI Award to them. Ciara Butler, Emer Byrne, Fiona Cassidy, Lauren Cassidy, Michelle Rita Collins, Claire Connolly, Caroline Costello, Emer Cotter, Maria Cullen, Aisling Dempsey, Aileen Doyle, Catherine Doyle, Roisin Fagan, Nigel Anthony Farrell, Helen Flynn, Emma Galligan, Julie Gochran, Ciara Goldrick, Deborah Heffernan, Alexandra Jaiko, Saoirse Kavanagh, Emer Kelly, Sarah Kennedy, Ellen Kenny, Ruth Kerwin, Irene Lynch, Caroline McGovern Faulkner, Steffi Madden, Jade Manley, Vicky Mason, Clodagh McInteggart, Susan McGrath, Anya Mooney, Conception Munoz Gamos, Orla Murphy, Maria Myers, Grace O'Boyle, Owen O'Brien, Susan O'Callaghan, Alma O'Leary, Claudia O'Reilly Dempsey, Jessica O'Shea, Maria Price, Linda Quinn, Eva Rabik-Gojic, Emma Regan, Christina Rehel, Leah Rooney, Tara Sheehan, Louise Slattery, Laura Spencer, Tracy Traynor,
Thank you, Sive. I now call upon Mina Walsh to present the candidates from the Higher Diploma in Arts in Early Years Montessori Education.
I present to you the following candidates who successfully completed the program in the college and who are worthy of the QQI Award of Higher Diploma in Arts in Early Years Montessori Education. And I request you to present their QQI awards to them. Anna Aftab, Shauna Burke, Jennifer Cooper, Denise Deleuze, Malgorzata Guizda, Megan Lane, Rosalita Luna Ibarra, Daniela Pereira Prates, Ruth Rigby, Shen Yu Wang.
Thank you, Mina. I now call upon Dr. Nicholas Breakwell to introduce our guest speaker. Nick.
Thank you, Anne, and good evening and congratulations, graduates of 2020. This is a fantastic achievement to have completed your degree in this most peculiar of academic years. But despite all of those extra challenges which you have faced and we have faced in delivering your program to you, you've made it. So I think it's really time now to give yourselves a bit of a pat on the back and a little round of applause. I don't know if we can do that online with our hands up or our clapping icons, can we? Well done, everybody. And maybe it might be a good opportunity to take a few moments to thank your family and friends and those people around you, if they are indeed there with you in your home at the moment, for all of the support and comfort that they've provided during the hard work over the last number of years that have got you to this graduation event today. And whilst you're doing that, I'm going to introduce to you our guest speaker for this evening's graduation. Ray Gurn is the CEO of Higher Ground Education, a US-based Montessori education provider with programs in over 50 schools supporting children from birth through high school. Ray's vision is to greatly accelerate the growth of Montessori education, and with his team, he's expanding the reach of Montessori across America and further afield. Ray is a passionate advocate, not only for the benefits of Montessori education, but also for mainstreaming and modernizing Montessori. And one of those projects involves working with us here at St. Nicholas to develop a new blended learning Montessori teacher training program. It's a very great privilege to welcome Ray this evening. Ray, over to you.
Thank you. Can I be heard? Wonderful. Thank you. And thank you, class of 2020, St. Nicholas Montessori College, for inviting me to share in your celebration and allowing me to honor your achievement with a few remarks. I've admired the work of St. Nicholas Montessori College for a long time now, and have had the privilege of seeing the impact of its graduates in Montessori classrooms across the world. We actually operate 8 schools in China as well, and have seen, graduates popping up here and there, and it's been an honor. And my own Montessori pilgrimage, a journey now of over 20 years, shoulder to shoulder with hundreds of educators, has left me with a deep awareness of how monumental an achievement it is to become a Montessori trained educator. This is no small accomplishment that you have achieved. The work of becoming a Montessori educator, as you've all learned, is the work of self-transformation. You've completed the all-important first period of a 3-period lesson, that will be your journey to becoming a Montessori guide. And that entails a commitment to dedicate oneself, mind, body, and soul, to a fundamentally different view of the human child. One that regards the human child as capable, as efficacious, as foundationally good. It's a view that does not see the child as always seeking the path of least resistance, but believes that she is capable of great, profound, meaningful work, and that she seeks such work, she seeks such challenge. It's a view that believes that all learning is autodidactic, that each human being must connect the dots for themselves, and that the child not only self-directs, but actually self-creates. And it's a view that entails a profound humility about the role of the educator, which is to be a guide, an aid, a passenger, an active passenger, but a passenger and not a driver in the life of the child. You're all well aware of the self-preparation involved in becoming a Montessori guide. And it's fitting that such demanding and such exacting preparation is required, given how important Montessori education is to the tomorrow that awaits us and that awaits our children. The world is changing at a breakneck pace. Things that would have strained credulity a decade ago now seem on the horizon. My three young children likely will not be driving. They'll have self-driving cars. They'll almost certainly be wearing smart contact lenses that label the world for them. Universal translators is no longer the realm of science fiction. Now, a good friend of mine founded and is leading a company called Boom, which is making supersonic flight available again, in a new way to people all over the world. So, New York to London in 3.5 hours, LA to Shanghai in 3.5 hours. Imagine how that transforms our lives. We're holding ceremonies like this via Zoom, but how long until we're actually immersed, using 3D technology in a shared virtual room? The world is changing, and the next 20 years are going to be far more transformative than the previous 20. So how, as educators, as parents and as educators, do we prepare our children for a world which we cannot see and we cannot envision? If our sacred obligation is to help them ready themselves for their future, how can we do that when we don't know the future? How do we ready them? How do we future-proof them for the unprepared environment that is to come? And that is precisely the power of a Montessori education. It's optimized to develop the human capacity to adapt, to adjust, to relate, to explore, to discover, and to progress. If our goal is to prepare children for an unknown future, the Montessori method in its core principles is our compass, our North Star in this work. It's the only way to prepare children for tomorrow. But the power of Montessori goes deeper than merely preparing for new technological advancements. For as we know, we also live in times of increasing divisiveness. And here again, we as educators are called to prepare children. Culturally, tribalism is on the rise, groupthink is on the rise, and bonds of trust in human institutions such as government, media, and universities are being eroded. By some measures, the world, while it's never been more advanced and more peaceful and more prosperous, has also never been more aggrieved and divided. There seems to be a widespread emergent awareness that something's broken in how human beings interact. And this is often attributed to the rise of social media. We seem to be in grips of an outrage culture, of echo chambers that merely increase in size as we gain access to every person in every corner across the globe. Our technology, you could say, has provided us with a degree of choice, total choice, literally at our fingertips in our phones, of agency and control over who, what, when, and how we spend our time, our money, our attention. But our educational system, our pedagogy has not prepared us to handle that level of choice, of autonomy, of agency, of control. And history has shown that in such circumstances, absent an inner compass, people slowly turn to whomever is willing and able to tell them what to do, what to think, how to act. And here again, Montessori is the answer. Your chosen life's work is the answer. Maria Montessori, remember, created her work during a global pandemic in 1919. You know, the flu was ravaging people across the world. She suffered through the Great Depression, you know, a financial calamity as great as any we've seen in our time. She worked through World War I, through World War II. She was exiled to India by Mussolini. And in the midst of all of this, she did not say, it is too late for education. She doubled down on her conviction that education is the only path to tomorrow. In such an uncertain world, we must look to the power of education and the power of the children that we educate. In Montessori's word, if hope and salvation are to come, they can only come from the children, for children are the makers of men. And this is why I'm so heartened by the work that you are undertaking. Every child you impact, every child that you help self-actualize, every child you awaken will push the world forward a little bit. And I would add that it is indeed about the particular children that you impact in your particular work, you know, not some abstract impact on education. The great poet Maya Angelou once said, if you have only one smile in you, give it to the people that you love. Don't be surly at home, then go out on the street and start grinning good morning at total strangers. So that is what is required of you above all. Tend to the particular children under your care. See the best in them and give your best to them. If you trust in your training and in your love of the good in that child and offer them your best, you will help transform their lives and through that to change the world and make it better. 2 quick pieces of advice as you take on this great work. And I draw here from my organization's core values because I think you'll find them useful. First, precisely because you are an idealist, recognize the threat of cynicism. Cynicism is an occupational hazard of being an idealist. The reason is that the world won't always cooperate with your ideals. People and circumstances interfere. You may want to focus on awakening that child's love of math, but instead you have to deal with the fact that the hot water is not working, or that, you know, the parents are not sold on the idea of no screen time, you know, or a bedtime routine. You won't always have the resources, the materials, and the support. And a cynical idealist looks at those obstacles and laments the fact that the world won't conform to her ideals. Be instead what we call a practical idealist. A practical idealist takes every challenge as part of the scope. A practical idealist knows that the work is precisely to make that ideal and that vision a reality, precisely to navigate the obstacles in service of the child. Montessori is our compass. It is said that the great American president, Abraham Lincoln, you know, once noted that a compass will tell you where true north is, but a compass is not going to tell you how to get around a swamp. That is the work, that creativity of implementation that will fall to you. How do you get around that swamp? How do you go west or go east in order to ultimately get back north? You have true north in your training. And if you use that knowledge with an active mind and a deep resilience, you can be a practical idealist, and I hope you'll choose that path. The second core value that I'll quickly mention is what we call mission without martyrdom. You are missionaries, you are all missionaries, and it is a profound mission that you're called on to serve. But to succeed in that mission, a certain mindset is required. In choosing how to apply your training and what work to do, I implore you, paradoxically, to momentarily put aside the well-being of children and ask, what work do you want to do? What life do you want to live? What do you find uplifting and ennobling and meaningful? And the reason is that the most important way that you will impact children is by being a shining example of what it means to be a meaningful, authentically engaged adult. Children in a million ways will be impacted by the sight of an adult that loves life and that is pursuing the things that are important to him or to her. As the great African-American author and civil rights leader, Howard Thurman said, don't ask what the world needs, Ask what makes you come alive and go do it. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. And so in being a missionary, remember always that this is a choice that you make, and that your children, the children that you serve, need to see it as a choice that you've made, not as a duty that's been imposed upon you. So those are my 2 pieces of advice. Embrace practical idealism and mission without martyrdom. And as my closing thought, I wish to share a sentiment that Maria Montessori often expressed, the sentiment that in education, it is important to impart gratitude for human ingenuity, creativity, persistence, past and present, and all that it has made possible in our lives. Not just the potential of the human spirit, but the actual value that human progress has brought to our lives. And so I thought I'd leave you today with her words. Quote, "What is necessary is that the individual from the earliest years should be placed in relation with humanity. There is no love in our hearts for the human beings from whom we have received and are receiving so much in bread and clothing and the numerous inventions for our benefit. Perhaps we teach the child to thank God and pray to him, but not to thank humanity, God's primary agent in creation. We give no thought to the men and women who daily give their lives so that we may live richly. Every achievement has come by the sacrifice of someone now dead. Every map speaks eloquently to the work of explorers and pioneers who underwent trials and hardships to find new places and to make the world greater and richer for our dwelling. So let us in education always call the attention of children to the hosts of men and women who are hidden from the light of fame, so kindling a love of humanity, not the vague and anemic sentiment preached today as brotherhood, nor the political sentiment that the working classes should be redeemed and uplifted. What is most wanted is no patronizing charity for humanity, but a reverent consciousness of its dignity and worth." End quote. And that is what I feel for you all today as you set upon your journeys, a reverent consciousness for your dignity and worth. So thank you in advance for the great work you are doing to unleash the latent potential of children, to see and to serve their endless possibility. And what is much more, that you're doing it out of the character of an educator that you've created in yourselves these past years, and that allows you to find personal meaning and fulfillment in serving them. Congratulations, class of 2020, and may you find the success, the meaning, and the joy that you have earned and that you deserve. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ray, for those incredible and inspiring words. I think it's obvious to anyone who has just heard you that your vision and the vision of higher ground education is very much aligned to our own. And we really genuinely look forward to strengthening our partnership with you and your team over the coming months. And by the way, graduates, if you were inspired by Ray's words there are always plenty of opportunities to work in higher ground schools in America and around the world. So just get in touch with us, and we can put you in touch directly with Ray and his team. Thank you, Ray. Now, before we let you pop your champagne corks, I just have a few words of my own to pass on to you. It might not feel like it, but despite everything that's happened this year, there's never been a better time to graduate as a Montessori teacher in Ireland. And there are several reasons for this. Montessori philosophy and methodology is becoming deeply embedded in our national education system. You will already be aware, of course, that the ASHTA curriculum references many Montessori principles and is clearly inspired by Montessori philosophy. And this same inspiration can now also be seen in the draft primary curriculum framework recently published by the NCCA. This new primary curriculum includes 8 overarching teaching and learning principles, which clearly reflect a focus on the holistic development of the child that Ray was talking about. And to give you an example, one of these principles is learning environments. And the framework says children's learning is shaped and nurtured by the physical environment, indoors and outdoors. These diverse environments encourage children's independence and stimulate and support their learning across the curriculum. This is the new draft primary curriculum, and I'm sure it sounds very familiar to you and indeed to all Montessori educators. So wherever you work in the early years or in the primary sectors, you will find that Montessori is increasingly one of the underpinning philosophies that is driving curriculum and pedagogy. And you, of course, are ideally placed to support that pedagogy. For those of you who are working or are planning to work in early years, there is real and genuine progress being made in the professionalization of the sector. The Early Years Forum and Stakeholders Group, of which St Nicholas is a member, is well advanced in preparing a workforce development plan, which seeks to define the early years profession in terms of job titles, entry criteria, and career progression. And to manage and support this professionalization agenda, an early years council, similar to the Teaching Council, will soon be established. The coronavirus pandemic has served to highlight the importance of early years educators, not only to the development and well-being of children, but also as a foundation of our entire economy. Without early years provision, working life grinds to a halt, as we've seen over the last few months. And this realization has been reflected in the very significant financial support that early years providers have received during the pandemic. The hope for the future is very much that this new sense of professionalization will soon translate into higher rates of pay across the sector, which I'm sure you are all hoping for. And for those of you who are working or are planning to work in the special education sector, it is also perhaps the perfect time to be graduating from St Nicholas. At the end of the last school year, there were 1,463 special classes in mainstream schools in Ireland, with nearly 9,500 places available for children. And that represents an increase of 11.5% over the previous year. The total number of special education teachers in mainstream schools at the beginning of this year was 13,428. And there are an additional 1,223 teachers supporting nearly 8,000 students enrolled in special education schools. In Budget 2021, the Minister of Education announced funding for the hiring of nearly 1,000 additional SNAs and over 400 additional special education teaching posts. And as the Minister said, this will mean that at 17,500, we have more special education teachers in Ireland in schools than ever before, and with an additional 18,500 SNAs to support them. So there are more posts than ever available, and St Nicholas remains the only provider producing graduates who are uniquely positioned to work in these posts and to avail of Route 4 recognition with the Teaching Council. And finally, it's never been a better time to graduate from St Nicholas because our brand is on the up. Hopefully you will have noticed the new programs that we've launched this year, the Montessori and Dementia program and the new BA Honours in Psychology. We have more programs in development, including a Bachelor of Education in Primary Teaching for graduates who will work as mainstream primary school teachers inspired by Montessori. And all of these programs will soon be delivered from our brand new campus, work on which is about to begin. The college has recently secured accreditation to deliver programs in a blended learning mode, and we are also seeking accreditation to deliver programs to students based outside of Ireland. These developments will enable us to expand our reach and work with partners such as Ray and Higher Ground in promoting the development and modernisation of Montessori education around the world. This year, we also opened our second St Nicholas school, and we plan to open more schools in the coming years. So we are doing everything we can to ensure that you, the graduates of St Nicholas, the 2020 graduates of St Nicholas, continue to be held in high regard across the wider education sector. But ultimately, that high regard depends on you. You are the new ambassadors for Montessori education and for St Nicholas Montessori Society. As you begin your career as a Montessori educator, it is crucial that you stay true to those Montessori principles that have been the foundation of your studies at St Nicholas. These are the same principles that Ray spoke about so passionately, and that increasingly are the inspiration in forming national curricula here in Ireland. You must be aware of and guard against the merging of these principles into other pedagogies and approaches. This risks diluting the unique benefits of the Montessori approach and undermining the very reason why you have earned your degree in Montessori education today. Ultimately, staying true to and defending these principles is important, not for your professional identity or for the strength of the St Nicholas brand, but because you know, we all know, that authentic Montessori works. The research is clear. Children do better in Montessori schools. It's now up to you, graduates of 2020, to demonstrate that in your own schools. Thank you, congratulations, and good luck in your career as a Montessorian, wherever that may take you. And just before I finish, can I thank the organising committee for this first online graduation, who've done an absolutely fantastic job. Bernie, Pauline and Steve. And if we were able to give them a round of applause, I think we would be doing that most thoughtfully this evening, because the event has run incredibly smoothly. And I think it's been a testament to the hard work that they've put in over the last few weeks. And thanks also to, of course, all of our faculty who've helped you along the way, and to you for representing us and Montessori education. I'll now hand back to Anne to close the ceremony.
Thank you, Nick. Aina Kamula, Aguina Ushla, Ko Lakaha Agus Keimaha, Kurum Creek Lesh an Grinnu Shaw, Condavachtani of Runnu Olamori Kalashta St Nicholas Montessori Aaron. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues and graduates, this concludes the meeting for the purpose of conferring QQI awards on the learners of St Nicholas Montessori College, Ireland. Congratulations to everyone. I see that everyone has received and is wearing their mortarboards. We have just one last thing that we'd like you to do before we draw the ceremony to a close. If everyone could now go into gallery view, you can, if you wish, unmute your microphone. And we're going to have a countdown for what has become now the traditional throwing of the mortarboards into the air. So we're going to try it online, virtually, for the first time. So I'll give everybody a couple of seconds just to sort themselves and to get the cameras at the ready. And then maybe the rest of the staff can join me in the countdown from 5. Are we good to go? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Well done.
You did it.
Hey.
That's all.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, everyone.
Congratulations, everyone.
Congratulations, everybody.
Congratulations.